Okay, hello, good morning everybody, and thank you for joining this call. This webinar is in fact part of a series of sessions that we have already held and that we will be doing in the future, and it's all about the IBM Cloud Paks. As you may know, the main focus for IBM within their hybrid cloud strategy. Now, during this call, we will put all participants on mute. Of course, if you would have questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. Dirk and myself will monitor it, and we will try to handle the question as soon as possible or after the session. For those who don't know me, I'm Manu de Witte. I'm IBM Account Manager within Tech Data, and in the name of Tech Data and IBM, I welcome you to this session. Now, Cloud Paks provides an open, faster, more secure way to move core business applications to any cloud to enterprise-ready containerized software solutions. As you know, today we will give you a technical view on the IBM Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management, which provides consistent visibility, governance, and automation from on-premise to the edge. In this call, we have the pleasure to welcome from IBM Abdul and Henk, who will give you the technical introduction. And afterwards, we have our colleague from our Tech Data UK office, Richard Hampson, who will give you his view on how he partners, builds, and succeeds together with business partners on IBM Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management. Abdul, Henk, stage is yours.
Thank you. So thank you for having us. So my name is Abdul Diallo, and together with Henk, we'll be doing the presentation, and we have a mix of slides and also some demonstration that we will show to highlight some of the topics we'll be mentioning in the presentation. So without further ado, let me start. So a bit of context before we deep dive in the product capability itself. So to start, we have actually the constatation that cloud adoption is something on the agenda of at many customers, so to not say all of them. And what we see actually in the last few years is that actually we have a lot of opportunities there. So a lot of companies, 94% are at least one, they have multiple cloud environments. And among those, what we also see is that we have a huge adoption. About 67% have at least one public cloud provider. So it seems that it's obvious that there are a lot of opportunities there for companies. One of the main things that it is used for is to actually try to solve some of the complexity related to managing traditional IT landscapes. That's on the opportunity side. And if you look at the adoption and some of the feedback that we get from the customers, there are also a few challenges, let's call it like that. So some of them are mentioned here on the slide below. So well, the things that come most often are the workload mobility. So moving application from one cloud provider to the other one. So it can happen that you are not happy with the services that are provided, or that the costs are quite high. Moving application and escaping the vendor locking aspects is a challenge. One other feedback that we get is related to the connectivity between clouds. So this is also a concern. And more importantly, what we see is the, how do you, from if you have multiple cloud providers, you have your application on premises, how do you manage that in a consistent way? So providing a single tool that will allow you to manage your applications, the infrastructure on which they are deployed, but also provide you some of the governance and security capability that are required to have your application and infrastructure function correctly. So with IBM, we have our hybrid cloud software approach. So this is something that was tailored to help you actually succeed in your journey to multi-cloud adoption. So this approach is basically supported by the Cloud Paks. So Cloud Paks are a new way of delivering software capability in containerized form that can help actually solve the challenges that we have mentioned in the first slide. So from an architectural point of view, the Cloud Paks, I think something that you have already heard of, is a layered architecture. So it starts with one common base. So that will provide you a set of capability. We call those the common services. So those common services are provided by the Red Hat OpenShift container orchestration platform. So the goal of this is to provide you actually capability that will help you easily move your workloads or make it portable from different clouds. So when we say cloud here, we are not only referring to public clouds. It can also be something that you operate inside your own data center. The most basic definition could be just a single ESX server. And on top of that common layer, what we have then is the middleware themselves, so IBM middleware in most of the cases, but not only, we also have in some of our Cloud Paks middleware provided by the software portfolio from Red Hat. So in the Cloud Pak for application, for instance. So the goal here is to provide and unify the software experience that will integrate seamlessly with the orchestration layer below. So meaning that the software component in the Cloud Paks can integrate with the platform so that the operator can easily manage operational aspects like logging, monitoring, some of the security features, etc. On top of that, what you have is some additional capability that we provide. So we have software that will help you for specific use cases and some AI application as well. The goal here actually from this software is, for instance, if you are doing modernization of your application, we provide some tooling that can help you, for instance, transform applications that are currently deployed into traditional virtual machine environments into containers so they can be deployed seamlessly on the OpenShift container platform. These kind of tools we are referring to here. So today, in the software portfolio, as a result of this new approach, we have 6 Cloud Paks. And for our session today, we will be focusing on the Multicloud Management Cloud Pak, which actually is meant for helping you reduce your IT ops spendings by up to 75%. So this is a study done by Ovum, which is a business partner from a company that IBM have asked to do this study for companies that are adopting this solution. So the links here provide some more details on that aspect. So that's a quick intro on the general context and what we try to do with the Cloud Paks in general. Let's now have a look at the Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management itself. What we try to show in this slide is an overall solution capabilities of what we provide in the pack itself. So the main goal of the Cloud Pak here is to provide you a solution that will help you manage in a consistent way applications and also the infra on which they are deployed, and that on Kubernetes. So if you are adopting more and more cloud native type of deployments, but also taking into account the traditional environments that are based on virtual machines. So we support both. So that's what we try to highlight here below, and to guarantee maximum portability and deployment capability on all the existing platform that we have today. So going from something that is available on premises in your own data center to public cloud on the mainframe, but also on the edge. So from a capability point of view, we have here highlighted in those boxes the different topics that we will be highlighting in the next slides and the small demos that we have prepared. So on one hand, we have everything related to application lifecycle management. So we will show that more in detail. This concerns the deployment of the application deployment model that we have elaborated and how you manage this from an operational perspective. We have things related to workplace protection and compliance. So this is related to all the things like policies creations, making sure that you comply with a set of rules that you define or that we provide out of the box. From an environment perspective, toolings that will help you manage Kubernetes environments and also traditional VMware-based environments. The automation capabilities that will help you actually providing things like self-service catalogs or automate deployments of application and infrastructure. So for that, we provide two things here. So we have Red Hat Ansible that is very popular in most of the companies, but we also provide Terraform, which a solution that can help you do infrastructure as a code. So that's from an automation perspective. We have also a huge focus on everything related to what we call the day two operations. So like advanced monitoring, application and infrastructure monitoring, the eventing, etc. So all these kind of things are also provided in a consistent way, going from the application level to the infra where the application is running. The other topic that is also important here is the chargeback capability that we provide. So this will actually help you collect the information needed on the resource consumption. If you need to have reporting to create a chargeback for the different teams that are actually sharing a resource. So that's also provided as part of the solution. The last topic that I would like to mention here is the partner integration. So as we said, the IBM hybrid cloud software approach, we rely heavily on open standards. So the solution itself is based heavily on open source components, and we can easily integrate with a lot of the tools that are available today on the market. So some of them are mentioned here. This list is not exhaustive, of course, but we can integrate. We have solutions with partners that we can easily integrate as part of the solution. So it's really meant as a control plane that will allow you to manage application across container-based and VMware-based environment, also taking into account the infrastructure on which they are deployed. So I will stop now from the introduction and hand it over to Henk for the next topic that will be explained. Henk, to you. I will stop my sharing.
Yes, I will start sharing my PowerPoint. Click on the share. Think you see my screen and you hear me? Yes, I see some people nodding, not falling asleep, but just. I'm Henk Waanders. Good morning. I'm from IBM as well. I'm in the partner enablement area, and I'm technical, focused on multi-cloud management and about infrastructure in general. It's all about visibility across hybrid environments, multi-cloud management, and that's my focus mainly. You can't manage what you don't monitor, and multi-cloud management gives you the capabilities to do this. It includes lifecycle management, application lifecycle management, governance, but it's still managing and monitoring. For this, we have Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management. It's, as Abdul said, it's deployed on top of a Red Hat OpenShift. This is the entry page where you see the cloud providers, the compute resources, the applications you have, and a more overview on the cluster providers and if they are in compliance, what kind of virtual machine providers you have, and so on. This is just the entry page. It's not the detailed consumption or the alerting that's done in a different part of the multi-cloud management application. For instance, when you look at this is you look at the monitoring part or the infrastructure part. It's when you're familiar with Red Hat, you see that this is CloudForms. This is Red Hat CloudForms, and we acquired Red Hat a few years ago, and we will tightly integrate the Red Hat CloudForms with MCM, and you can access, and we will show you later on. You can access the CloudForms from Multi-Cloud Management Console seamlessly. And in that you have you can see all the details of, for instance, of a VM. This is and it's cross as it's cross cloud providers. You see here an instance in AWS. You can add cloud providers as Azure, OpenStack, and VMware as well. I will now go to, I have to stop sharing and start sharing again for my Firefox to show you the console. This is the Cloud Management Console, and I can sign in using my enterprise LDAP username and password. So you can tightly integrate it with your Active Directory or Tivoli or whatever enterprise LDAP you have. Bummer. Sorry for this. I have to clear some data. Happens once in a while when something times out. So this is the same page as I showed you in the sheet. This is an environment on which I have a couple of VMware instances running. I have a Power OpenShift cluster, and I have an x86 OpenShift cluster imported into Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management. The VMwares are from just a vCenter environment I will show you later on. But it's done, I configured it in CloudForms, as I showed you before, but it's reported into the multi-cloud management. So how do I add a cluster? Just from the menu, automate infrastructure. You see here the clusters. These are my clusters, 2 of them. This is my power cluster. You can't see that you can't see its power, but anyway, it's and that's the nice thing about it. It's transparent with Cloud Paks. You don't you don't see if it's x86 or Linux on mainframe or Linux on Power. It's just a cluster, and you can deploy applications on it. And I have a couple of book notes over there. How to import? You just can just add a cluster, import a cluster by running a command, or, and I come back to that later, using the service library you have in multi-cloud management. You can spin up an OpenShift cluster from here. But I come back to that later on. I will now go to the infrastructure management part, and I have to log in, pass login, my login credentials to CloudForm. You can see it seamlessly integrated. It's using my same credentials. I'm the same person, and it's all using the same LDAP with groups where you can set up admins, you can set up operators, developers with different capabilities, different roles. From here, you can manage your infrastructure, and how to do that, you have on the compute, you have the cloud, the infrastructure, and the containers part. From the cloud, I don't have a cloud provider yet, but you can add a provider over here using this button and choose your cloud provider, for instance, Amazon, and you have to provide your access key and so on to hook up to Amazon. Same, for instance, for infrastructure. I have two vCenters in my environment. This is one, and you can see the VMs in it. The usage and so on. And from the main overview, you saw there is a VM running high, 53%. I can drill down to it, and I think that's really on utilization. I think there's really something going on. I want to 10, so I have to look at it, but it's easy to view from the dashboard. From this, you can add container providers as well. I've imported four clusters. One IKS that's running on IBM Cloud, and two others running on my premises. For instance, this one, and you can see the health of the cluster. It has a lot of pods. This is a cluster where Cloud Pak for data has been deployed on. And on memory, my worker nodes are a bit memory intensive. So maybe I have to give them some more air. From this, you have a service library as well in CloudForms. And you have a service library in multi-cloud management. So that's might be a bit confusing, but that's something which will go away in an upcoming release, that we have one pane of glass to provide instances and so on. From here, I can spin up a VMware instance in my vCenter environment. Yes. So I will go back to my presentation again. This is a nice picture about how we envision it from a a management point of view, and the Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management is in the heart of it. An IT ops manager can view or deploy and an operation manager, all kinds of resources. You can deploy them from the multi-cloud management console using the service library, and we'll show you how to do that. For this, we'll go back to the multi-cloud management console and click the Manage Services, where I have a library of services I can compose myself or take one from the samples provided with multi-cloud management. And these samples are just accessible on GitHub. They are free. You can clone them yourself and adapt. And I have created a service myself, Hank service. Start with Hank, so it's me. And one of them is published, and this is my development flow. I've retired one, I've published one. You can have more than one published, and one is in draft. And that one I can edit. And when I edit a service, I can do all kinds of things, which is I will not show you everything. And here is a canvas where you can compose a service, and a service is made of templates, and the templates are provided in IBM Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management as well. And you can make. We'll show you some later on. You have all kinds of parameters which you can fill in, but you don't have to look at this. This is more a development thing. Only these two parameters you have to fill in during deployment, and the rest is under the hood. It's done for the actual provider. They don't have to provide the parameters. It's done by the developers. So I will show you later on. You have, it's a nice, this is a service as well. The mean stack deployment means Mongo and all some other components. And this is a service which is really handsome. You can put in a cloud provider, VMware, IBM, AWS, Azure, and depending on the provider you choose, it will choose a template to run on. And as said, it's all on GitHub, so you can clone a template, make a service out of it, even clone a service, and make your own. Let's conclude mine for the moment. Abdul, I will hand it over to you again. Oh, and sorry for the noise. I see it now. I had to.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be now talking about the application lifecycle management, and as next topic, we'll dig a bit in detail in the advanced monitoring capabilities. So let me start first by explaining what we do with for application inside the Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management. So as we said, it's a tool that can help you manage your applications. So what we've done actually is to create additional concepts. So we have the concept of application inside the multi-cloud for the Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management. What we mean by application actually is just an extension of some of the Kubernetes capabilities. So we have created what we call custom resource definitions to help you define an object called application. So this is something that will take actually from source the code that is produced by developers, so we can interface it with your existing repositories using the container images that are provided, and we can take that as input to create this object and deploy it on the target environment where you want to deploy this. What we see on the slide here is a representation of such an application object. So it can be easily moved from one environment to the other one. It provides you also visibility on the different objects that consist of that application. So in this case, what we see here are in fine the pods that are deployed on the target cluster that we have here. And we can immediately see from a monitoring perspective, a quick status on how the application is doing. So green check marks means that it's working fine. So we also support what we call here a hybrid deployment model. So meaning that you can have an application that consists of one part, for instance, the presentation layer could be containerized, but it can also consume services that are deployed on a standard virtual machine. So hybrid can mean that, but it can also mean something that is deployed on a public cloud, consuming services that are deployed on a backend in your own data center on premises. So when your applications are deployed, so the next, from an operational perspective, so we have cloud native applications. So cloud native applications compared to what we do in traditional VMs, the granularity of the objects is quite high. So if you adopt, for instance, microservices, instead of having one big monolithic application, we might end up with a large application with a lot of services and dependencies. So it's important to have a clear view when something is not working fine, to be able to detect the problems and spot right away what is going on. So in that instance, what we have here is a representation of a very complex application. We provide, as part of the Cloud Pak, visibility inside these different components. So what we see here is an example of an application where we can drill down at the different components that it consists of and provide information related to the latency, the traffic, the saturation, etc. And provide also the topology and the dependencies of the different services that consist of that application. What you also have is a timeline that will help you actually detect when a specific error has occurred. So that's one first thing. Just maybe let me come back to my screen here. I try to see if you can show that here. So on the menu item, as I've seen in the introduction done by Hank here, we have a menu item for managing applications. So that's the view that we have here. What we see here is actually two things. We have on one hand what we call a hybrid application. So that's what I try to explain in the in the slide. So we have here one single application that is deployed. It's a very big application, as you can see. the graphical representation. So this is a representation of that object application. On top here, you have the main entry point. And if you click on that, you actually get also the same information here in YAML file. So this is the objects that are represented here. You can close this one off. The next one that you get here is something that we call a subscription. So the way the applications are made available is something that is a subscription mechanism. So applications are made available through specific channels, and you can subscribe. So from a subscription, you can say where you want to deploy the application. So to do that, we have a small object here called a placement rule. It's just also another YAML file where actually you will say where I want to deploy my application. So in this case, what we have here is an application that is deployed across two OpenShift. Oops. Sorry for that. Let me show it here. So the application is deployed across two clusters. So the cluster that we have are on one hand this one here, and we also have part of the application deployed on the local cluster. So the status that I was mentioning is also available here. So you can see the different pods that are deployed, and you can always filter or status here, and you can see if there are containers that are not running fine. So this provides you a view here. The other thing that you have from an application perspective here is yeah. Yeah, bear with me with that. It's a small environment that I'm managing myself. So you have the hybrid application. So this is a mix of containerized and VM-based deployments. The other thing that you have are services. So those are applications currently running inside traditional VMware environments. So these can be shown as part of the cloud forms, so that we have seen in the infrastructure management part, and they can also be made as a service that can be deployed on demand with using, for instance, the catalog that is provided in the platform in the in the infrastructure management part. So let's come back to the booking info application that we were mentioning earlier. So I was saying that it's deployed across these two clusters. What you have also are actually some links that can provide you synthetic results and the service levels objectives. So you can easily link that to the monitoring capability. I need to log into that part here. Okay, so I think I have a small issue there, but I already recorded this video. Let me just maybe try to show what I was explaining here from the video that I've created here. So the point where I was is the one here. So what we get here is actually the different objects that are deployed. So those are the representation of the different objects. So we have the ingress point. So you have the secrets, for instance, if you need to connect to a database. We also have in fine the pods that are deployed. So for each of the pods, what we have is actually the container logs, the IP, the status, how many times, for instance, it has been restarted. These information are created here for you. From a resource perspective, I think I have shown this already. Now, this is where I was blocked. So the application itself, when you open the monitoring tab for that specific part, you get several things. So from a performance point of view, you have the different pods. So the pods are an assembly of containers. So this is the object used in Kubernetes to deploy your objects. So you get the different pods. You can see the consumption in resource, in CPU, etc. You get the same also at the cluster level. So that's what we are showing here. So we have two clusters that are managed inside this MCM environment. So the total resources used for this are mentioned here. From an application perspective, you can define service level objectives. So meaning that, for instance, if you say, I have a specific service where I don't want more than this amount of milliseconds in terms of response time, you can define these kind of things for a period of time, and you can define a target. So in this case, for that product page with the product informations, we would like to have availability of 98.5% that are below these 300 milliseconds. And you can see that actually this is respected. The next topic that I was trying to show in the slide from an information perspective, you also get from the application, so all the components that we have shown that consist of that booking info app, all the different services and how they are related. So do you have a kind of graph with the different dependencies that is generated for you. You can select one specific service, for instance. You can zoom in. What happens when you select a different specific service? You get, for instance, one that is not running. So it's the case now, unfortunately. You can get the different events. You can also drill down here on the event timeline. So you have, for each period of time, you have the amount of events that are generated. So you can scroll on those and see what is happening. The timeline here can be increased, so it can go from minutes to days and weeks. So depending on how you decide to retain the logs in your environment, so it can take quite some place. But you can go back and scroll and see actually what was the different events that were generated that can help you, for instance, have a hint on what was causing a specific issue. Okay. The other thing that you also have here as in this view is a representation of your cluster here. So this is a representation of your Kubernetes cluster where you have this, the hexagon here represent a worker node, and inside that worker node, you get the different pods that are deployed for this application. And from the services that we have shown in the graph, the one that is specifically selected is represented here in small, where you can see actually the dependencies directly for that specific service. So these are all information that are generated for you and that can help you actually identify a specific root cause of an issue. So the timeline, as I was saying, can help you actually detect some of the issues. So you can scroll back in the event timeline, and you can see, for instance, in this case here, some Python script was running that provoked a specific issue in the response time. Okay, so the other thing that is also available in here is the incident management capability. Let me come back here and see if I can just take that one here. So what you have seen actually is the monitoring capability, some of them related to a specific application. But if you look at the monitoring health incident, you have also here something more specific on the incident themselves. You have also the infrastructure monitoring. So this takes into account the VMs, the infra, the Kubernetes clusters as well. I have a small issue on that environment, so I will just carry on here in my video. So what I wanted to show from an incident perspective is the following here. On the UI, what you have is actually different tabs where you can select incident related to a specific user or all the incidents if you have the rights to do so. So in this case, what we see is that we have some incidents. It will give you on which host name it is happening, the different events that are generated for that specific incident, etc. The other thing that you can do is to link actually from the resolution of those incidents, you can actually assign them to a specific group of users. So this can be linked to your existing LDAP if you have a directory and the different groups there. So we have a group here for developers, line of business, operation, test, etc. From the UI here, if you can select to specific incident, for instance, to investigate more in detail. So you can see actually the timelines of the different errors, the events that were generated, and the different resources that are actually impacted by that incident. And from a resolution point of view, as an administrator, you can decide to actually assign the resolution of that incident to a specific user or group of users. So that's one topic. The other topic that I would like to also show in here are more on the extension, actually on the service level objective. So I have mentioned that this is something that we can create very easily for specific applications. So to do that, you need to select one of the applications that are deployed and just select a subscription in here, for instance, and it's a specific service. So in this application, it's it have a lot of services. So most of them are listed here, and you can select one of them, for instance, and say for this specific service, you specify a time frame and say in terms of response time or the amount of requests that need to be executed, these kind of things, and I can create that and assign to that specific application. The other topic that you can also do from an integration perspective. So in the introduction, we said that we have a large partner ecosystem that we can integrate. So some of them are listed here. So we have, you can use Umio, Jenkins, for instance, for automating the deployments. We have in our IBM portfolio a tool called Urban Code Deploy for continuous deployment. We also have integration with Elasticsearch, Dynatrace, etc., etc. So you have a long list here, which is not exhaustive, can be extended, of course, to help you actually from a management of the application or the infrastructure perspective, do these kind of things. So also in the administration part here, what we can also do is define what we call runbooks. So a runbooks is a set of libraries that you can use actually to do post-deployment actions on different nodes, for instance. So we provide here a list of scripts out of the box, but those can be, of course, extended and used. For instance, if you have a DB, you have to clean up some of the table spaces, or you want to run a specific Linux process on a virtual machine to on a regular basis. This can be automated by using this concept of runbooks that are available in the Cloud Pak here. So these runbooks can take advantage of some of the scripts that you have. If you have an Ansible tower, for instance, you can reuse some of the scripts here. Also, you can define your own, if you have bash scripts, for instance, for Linux environments, you can also reuse those. So you can easily configure that by using the connections that we provide in here. Okay. So that was from an application and monitoring perspective. Sorry for my environment, so this was not expected. The next topic I want to cover quickly is related to the governance part. So as part of the tool, what we also provide is a mean for you to create what we call policies. So you can create policies that you can apply at different levels. On the application level, the users, the infrastructure. So you can say, for instance, I create a policy to ensure that in a specific namespace, in a cluster, that development team, for instance, will not exceed a certain amount of resources, being the memory or the CPU. That's one thing. Can be applied to the users, the infrastructure where the application will be deployed. You can make sure, for instance, before pushing an application on a specific cluster, that some of the prerequisites are already defined. So that can be done using these policies mechanism that we provide as part of the Cloud Pak. So that's one first thing. The second aspect that is also important here. So as I said, in the application deployment model, we can interface with existing container registries to deploy images. So we have a solution that can help you actually scan these container registries to detect vulnerabilities. So that's something that we provide. And moreover, we also have something that is called a mutation advisor. So that can help you actually detect if something that was deployed have been changed in the course of time. So, and we can create also detailed, generate detailed information to see the policies violations, and that can be seen from, from the user interface here. Okay. So this is a representation of some of the things that I've mentioned in terms of policies. So here what we see that we have some set of policies that are defined. You can see which are in violations. The resource violation, the information that you have here. So here I mentioned a lot of things around Kubernetes and namespaces also, but the policies actually have been adapted so that they can also be applied to traditional virtual machine deployments as well. So it works for both type of environments. So for instance, the things that are mentioned for the resources allocation can also be easily applied to virtual machines as well. The next topic I wanted to cover here is related to the chargeback mechanism. So this is also part of, you can find that back easily in the menu items. So the management of cost. So you can define your rates. So this is flexible. So you can see, say, for instance, the different rates that you want to apply and the report that is generated. You take that into account for the different environments where you want to monitor the usage, etc. Okay, I think I will conclude with this slide here. So what we have tried to show in the session here is the Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management is really a control plane that can help you actually manage your application and the infrastructure on which they are deployed. It is heavily application-centric operation. It is based on an open ecosystem. You can easily integrate with different tooling that are available, and the integration with existing environments is not an issue at all. We also have a large partner ecosystems of products that we can easily integrate to extend some of the capabilities and improve actually the the performance of some of the topics that we have mentioned in the presentation. Okay, so thank you. So that's what I had as last slide. I don't know if we have questions that we can answer. We'll be happy to do so. Thank you.
For the attendees, if you would have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat room or the question and answers. We will monitor them and try to respond to them ASAP. Now, I can wonder that as being a business partner, you start questioning, okay, how the hell do I get started with this? Therefore, we have the honor to have our colleague Richard Hansen in the call. Richard, who is our counterpart in the UK, who is responsible for business development related to IBM, and he has started up, to my opinion, a great project to help partner build and succeed with IBM Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management. And so I would like to give the word to Richard so that he can promote, let's say, this great project, which we hope can be started as soon in Belgium and Luxembourg as well. Richard?
Thanks, thanks, Manu. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm going to share my screen very quickly. Let's see. Share. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Can anyone see that? That's brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, and thanks to all the speakers so far. I think two things I always take away from listening to discussions around multi-cloud manager is, one, it's a really exciting product and it does a huge amount, and it's, in my view, the absolute sharp end of the spear for IBM's strategy in hybrid cloud. I think the second thing I always take away is, wow, it's so big and complicated, and how on earth do I get going? Manu, you put it very, very aptly. So Tech Data in the UK looked at this, and we initially thought, well, how do we help partners get going with cloud packs in general, but also specifically around multi-cloud manager? And the background really is because when IBM bought Red Hat, we thought, how do we bridge the two ecosystems of partners, right? And the two capabilities? How do we bring it together under one roof and create a value proposition for both? And of course, the easiest bridge is MCM. But when we started going down this route, we thought, well, it's actually a bit more complex than we thought, and we need to actually derive a project, a competency around it. And that's what leads us to what I want to talk about today. So we call it the Tech Data Multi-Cloud Project. And you've probably seen some of the stats around the multi-cloud opportunity, and I'll very briefly go over this. Some of the stats go and say 5.6 billion by 2022. Others put it as high as $1 trillion hybrid cloud opportunity, which of course includes multi-cloud. What we can say is it's huge. It's a really big opportunity. And that, again, another stat that we use often is 80% of enterprises are using multiple public and or private clouds. So the market demand is absolutely there. To prove it, we always show the Forrester Wave, where IBM and Red Hat are absolutely positioned to take this to market. And this is important when you're dealing with customers who are working with hyperscalers and competitive vendors to who we work with. So we created the project based on the mantra, how will you as a partner adapt and lead? Or you could say adopt and lead, adopt the technology that IBM is driving to market. So with that in mind, we launched the Tech Data Multi-Cloud Project, which is a synergy between Tech Data, Red Hat, and IBM. So we use obviously the technologies, competencies, and resources between the three of us to create this offering to partners. So what is the project? We always get asked, what is the detail around it? And we break it down into 4 key areas, right? And it's all about helping partners, but we talk about 4 items, really. The one I've touched on a little bit, it's how do partners transform their business? So IBM has transformed its business to align with a hybrid multi-cloud model. All the technologies, the Cloud Paks, redeveloped to be a containerized native technology, moving away from the legacy traditional development patterns that IBM had. So partners are having to transform their businesses. And how do we help them do that? Key to everything, really, and I always like to take a step back from the Cloud Paks, but certainly Multi-Cloud Manager is the competency around OpenShift. Because what we've learned here in the UK is that without OpenShift understanding and skills, and to answer the question, why should we even care about OpenShift, we can't actually get onto having a competency around Multi-Cloud Manager or any of the other Cloud Paks that matter. The third piece is how do we define use cases for cloud native projects? So we talk to partners and they say, well, why should I drive this conversation with my customers? Why should I care? My application is working just fine as it is. They don't want to spend any more money. How do we convince them otherwise? And then the fourth part really is how do we test and develop work with Multi-Cloud Manager, the tool? How do we get hands-on with it, right? Because we see great demos, great presentations, but partners often haven't actually touched and felt what it's like and played with it, right? And that's where we see the development of competency beginning. So a bit of background, how did we develop the project? So typically in the UK and in Tech Data Europe, we have what we call the Business Solution Center, which is a center of competency. It has a lot of technology in it. A lot of our platforms sit in. We have an OpenShift environment, power systems, multiple vendors, virtually all the vendors you could think of. However, as we all know, this year we've had a bit of a change. So we couldn't actually deploy anything in this environment, but we had an idea. We thought, let's build it on IBM Cloud. And this actually didn't come to this wasn't the first idea we had. We thought, well, let's build it on premise, let's deploy OpenShift on Power or Dell at the time we were thinking about, and we'll offer the service as a sort of remote system into the Business Solution Center. But when we went down the route of IBM Cloud, we found how easy it was to get hands-on with the Cloud Paks. And that possibly isn't something that all partners think about in terms of how do we work with Cloud Paks. People often think about the traditional way of licensing, traditional way of deploying, but if you look at IBM Cloud, it's by far the easiest way. So what does our deployment look like? Very simply and broken down to be really easy to understand. We built it on OpenShift's Kubernetes service, and we layered Cloud Pak for Multi-Cloud Manager on top. So very simple to spin up. This build took us less than 2 weeks to get to the point where we literally got the credits into the IBM Cloud account, and 2 weeks later we had a fully functioning environment. Right, multi-cloud manager is huge. We haven't deployed everything in the entire platform, but we've got quite a large amount of stuff there. And of course, you know, the key thing is for us, it gives us flexibility, and it allows us to give access to partners to be able to benefit from that flexibility, to be able to benefit from those environments. So we always ask to partners, how are we going to help you succeed in this manner? And we break this down into 2 areas. The one is the partnership, right? I mean, Tech Data is really good at building partner ecosystems. So we, for the longest time, have found we have a huge number of partners who are either very good at a certain technology, they're really competent and capable, or they tend to be really good at access to market. They have big customers. Very seldomly do we have both together. And so we pride ourselves in bringing those ecosystems together. The collaboration of benefits in the environment are huge. What we end up doing is creating these effective and rapid deployment of solutions to customers. So taking a partner solution and driving it to another partner's customers. Or we look at understanding specific partner business requirements and then drive capability and competency through enablement, education, certification, all the rest of it. The second part, which is really key, is the build, right? And we've seen a huge amount of valuable content from the IBM team today regarding what Multicloud Manager can do. And I mentioned earlier, it's huge. So we've always put this wheel on the right-hand side just to show the scope of what MCM can do. And partners look at this and they go, wow, where do I start, right? Like, I don't know much about this product. I don't know much about the deployment model on OpenShift. How do I start this off? So we tend to focus on the 3 key areas where we drive partners around visibility, governance, and automation. And we've heard a lot about these areas. But in terms of how do we help partners position their thinking and how do we help them with their environment build, we look at these 3 areas. I added a 4th area, actually, their own IP. So we have a huge number of partners now. Well, huge, I say we have about 13 or 14 partners working with us on our environment who've deployed their own clusters, their own cloud native technology, working with OpenShift, working with MCM to create their own value. And of course, if anyone, and I'm assuming a lot of people on this call know what IBM drives its partner community to do, it is to create their own value and create their own solutions and drive those to market. So we talk about that a heck of a lot. So I always end off on this slide, and I know this has been a very brief overview, but we ask partners to come and talk to us about collaborating on this project. We can go in any which way. So I've not had a single call with a partner that's been the same as the last. Some are interested in looking at, you know, the real top of the triangle with Multicloud Manager and saying, well, I've got real life scenarios of my customers. I need to understand how we work together on building this capability. Others say, well, we need to understand OpenShift. We don't understand it enough to be confident to even get to the point where we can talk about this technology, these capabilities. Others come to us and say, well, I've got this solution. I want to put it on your cloud and I want to work with you in driving this into a containerized environment. So we're doing application modernization with some of our partners. So to summarize, what's available to Tech Data partners and to the partner ecosystem is a sandbox environment that's built on IBM Cloud, so we can give you access to this environment. You can have a look at it and you can play with it. You can have the keys to the car, as we say sometimes, or we can take you through the entire process of how do we get you ready for Cloud Paks on the one side, Red Hat OpenShift on the other, but also Multicloud Manager where we want to get to. So, you know, I know it's been a really quick summary. We are currently focused on this in the UK, but there's a plan to take this into Europe, the European countries such as you know, Belgium in Q1. So that's obviously really positive. And we obviously are available to help and support our colleagues. So Dirk and Manu in Benelux. So what I always say to partners is have a look at the QR code. It'll take you directly to our website. If you have any questions, you can contact myself. I'm the commercial lead for the project. Mike Potter is the technical lead for the project, and we've got our own email ID if that's easier. And reach out to us, and we'll work a way to work with you guys, right? Because in order for us to be successful as a channel ecosystem, as a channel community, we need to evolve our business. We need to evolve our thinking, and getting closer to IBM's strategy around competency around the cloud native technologies is key to that, right? So you know, there will be an absolute split in terms of partners, those who evolve and grow, and those who have to move on to other businesses. And so we obviously want you to evolve and grow with us, and that's part of our unique value as Tech Data. And I'm not ashamed to say it. We're very proud of what we've done in the UK. So you know, that's really all from me. I'll pass back to the guys, and we'll chat soon in the future, hopefully.
Thank you, Richard. And indeed, I think a great project, a great practical approach towards our business partners. As you mentioned, we can be proud of it. You can be proud of it. It really shows the added value business partners, the distributors can bring into the ecosystem. Thank you. I'm just having a look at the chat room. I don't see any questions at this point of time. For all attendees, this session is recorded. We will share the presentation as well. So herewith, I would just say, Henk, Abdul, Richard, thank you very much. People that have attended, thank you, and talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.